Okay, hi everybody, happy holidays. I'm filming this, the week before Christmas. By the time this goes live, it'll probably be the week after Christmas, but I am going to take you guys along on another trail ride with Nala and I, and then Kelsey and Doc as well. And I'm going to answer some of your questions while we're out riding. But before I get to that, I just wanted to take a moment and reflect on the year that I've had. This is my first year trying to do long form content like this. And I struggled a lot at the beginning with feeling like I wasn't significant enough, I guess, to share what Nala and I were going through, or that my opinion didn't matter. Just a very, what right do I have to be making noise on the internet and saying things? Which is kind of ironic if you think about it, because what is the internet if not 100,000 people screaming into the void every single day? But yeah, I have struggled a lot this year of feeling worthy of this platform, which is stupid. But also, whether or not I should share what I'm struggling with my horse. And the entire reason I started this channel was to document my progress with her, both for myself and for the trainer I was working with at the time, because we had such a hard winter last year. It felt like a really uphill slog the whole time. We had a lot of setbacks. We spent basically the entire winter just walking. No trotting, no cantering, literally just walking calmly in a circle. And that was where the bar was for us over the winter. And that sucked. That was awful. That was really hard. And so I started putting stuff together for YouTube to look back on, in a couple months or a couple years and see how far we've come. And also for other people to see if they're struggling with the same thing, because, not to be trite, but I feel like the social media narrative a lot of the times is oh, I have a horse, I'm gonna go do all of these things with this horse, and the journey is, if not really smooth, at least really linear. And that has not been my experience with Nala at all, and I know that that's not the experience that most people have with their horses. So thank you all so much for coming along on this journey. When I started this year out, I had no idea that my life was going to change so much in such a short period of time. If you've seen my earlier videos, you'd know I lost my job in March. I was unemployed for a good chunk of the summer before finding a job at the end of July. And then I moved across the country in August. I went from New York State to Los Angeles, California, which is where I am now. And Nala came along with me. And if you told me at the beginning of the year that that would be happening, I probably wouldn't believe you. But I'm also really glad that I have all of that documented as well. Oh, before I get to the video, I also want to talk a little bit about goals that I set. I set goals for myself in 2023 with Nala, and some of those happened, a lot of them didn't, just because I didn't realize kind of the depth of the issues I was dealing with Nala. So I held myself back from really setting goals for my riding and my horsemanship this year because I didn't want to be disappointed. And I'm kind of doing the same thing again next year. I'm afraid to hope for things, if that makes sense. Because I'm afraid that if I want it too hard, it's gonna get taken away from me. That being said, I did set myself some goals for YouTube for 2024. Not because I wanted to go viral or be this really big influencer or creator or anything. Mostly I just wanted something else to motivate me when things with Nala sucked. So I jotted a bunch of stuff down when I was planning out, actual videos and not just the stuff I was uploading for my trainer to see. And I went through what I wanted my channel to cover and what I wanted the energy to and the tone to be. I did set a couple subscriber goals for myself. I think it was something like 100 subscribers in 6 months or something. I'll look at the actual page when I get home and pop it up on the screen for you. And my second goal was that I wanted to upload 20 long-form videos in the calendar year of 2024, which is approximately one video every other week. I knew with my schedule I wouldn't be able to commit to doing a video every single week, even though I would like to do that at some point because I have so much I want to do and share with you. So maybe we'll see what 2025 brings. It probably won't bring less things on my plate, but we can hope. And now we're at the end of the year, and this will be either the 20th or the 21st long-form video I've uploaded, depending on whether or not I manage to get my act together. And I'm sitting at just under 700 subscribers, I think, which feels a little unreal. I am so deeply appreciative to every single person who watches my stuff, who has decided to subscribe or leave a comment or something. I know your time is valuable. I know there's so much on YouTube to explore, and I am really happy that you choose to spend at least a little bit of it with us. And to anyone who's struggling with their horse out there, you're not alone. There are so many more people struggling than you realize. You have a community somewhere, and things may not get better, or things may not look like they're going to get better, but things will never stay the same. So, the horse that you have right now is not the horse that you will have forever. And I hope that people find that resonant. So yeah, happy holidays, everybody, whatever you celebrate, even if what you're celebrating is just making it through to the end of the year. You did it, and I'm proud of you. And now I'll stop yapping, and we can go on our trail ride. See ya. Alright, on to the Q&A portion of this video. I've gotten some questions about how old Nala is, what kind of horse she is, etc. So I'm going to give you all a quick rundown on her basic stats. It feels like I'm talking about a video game character or something, but let me give you a rundown of her basic stats. She's 9 years old. She was born in 2015. She's 15-2. She's an appendix quarter horse, which means that she's half thoroughbred, half quarter horse. I have some of her dam's information because I got a copy of her dam's AQHA papers when I bought Nala. So I know that Nala is foundation bred on her dam side. If you trace her dam lines back, they go all the way back to Two-Eyed Jack, who was one of the foundation quarter horse sires. I don't know anything about her sire's side, unfortunately. Because Nala's dam was a nurse mare, the dam owner was never told which stallion covered her mare. Nala's dam was just returned in full. So that part's kind of a dead end, unfortunately. Oh, she is red dun. She does look chestnut or sorrel in the winter because her coat comes in really, really dark. But in the summertime, you can see her leg stripes a lot clearer. You can see her dorsal stripe year-round. Did I consider any other horses before I found Nala? I did. I was looking at a couple different ones. I was actually looking for a free lease originally, or some really cheap project that I could buy, train up, and then flip, 6 months or a year later. I was looking for that mostly because I was in kind of a precarious financial situation when I first started looking for a horse. I wasn't sure how long I was going to have my job because I was on a relatively short-term contract, but I couldn't be without a horse anymore. And I was having a hard time taking riding lessons and finding a barn in the area that I clicked with. At that point, I had just left a pretty bad barn job that left me with some residual trauma, and it was hard to get through a riding lesson without breaking down and crying. So I did the very same thing of buying my own horse, obviously. But yeah, I looked at a Mustang mare that someone was trying to put out on free lease, and that didn't quite work out. I looked at a couple other horses that were up for free lease, but I also just kept seeing Nala's ad pop up on all of the equine Facebook groups I was in, and I eventually clicked through it and caved almost immediately because she was kind of everything I was looking for at the time. Have I ever regretted buying her? Yes. Yes, very frequently, actually. I've had a lot of days where I regret buying her, regret going to see her in the first place, regret inquiring about her. She was sold to me with some known behavioral problems, mostly that she was aggressive towards men, and the woman I bought her for had a couple young boys that she was afraid the aggression would start to transfer over to, and turns out Nala was just kind of aggressive towards everybody and had a lot of unresolved issues under saddle that hadn't really cropped up because she hadn't been under saddle for very long, and she'd been sitting for a long period of time by the time I bought her. She'd been sitting, I think, for 6 months the first time I sat on her, and prior to that had been sitting for another 6 or so before then. Like I said, the lady I bought her from had small children, so not a lot of time left over for her and the horses. We've had, I think, a lot more bad days than good days, and kind of the sole thing that's kept me going is that maybe on the other side of all of this is a really, really nice, well-adjusted horse who I can do, kind of anything I want to do with, and who's game to try anything that I want to try. Have I owned any other horses aside from Nala? I have, actually. I had an Oldenburg gelding named Ernie when I was in high school. I only had him for about 6-7 months. He wound up completely blowing his deep digital flexor tendon about 6 months into me owning him, and frankly, we couldn't afford the rehab for it, so we wound up having to sell him on to someone who had the time and the money to rehab him. And then after that, I leased a horse for the last year of my junior career, another bay gelding named Vince. And then after that, I was horseless for a good, 6 years, something like that. What is Nala's best feature? I think her best feature is that when she's on and when she's tuned into me and when we're connected and working together, it's the most incredible thing I've ever felt. It's like every dream I had as a kid come true, where she is just right there and she gets me and I get her, and all I have to do is think something and she's responding to it. Do you ever want to compete or compete again? I do. I don't know how much of a competitive career Nala is going to have. There's a part of me that kind of hopes that we can be decent competitors, at least locally. But I don't know, I'd like to get back out into the show ring. I showed in the Hunters when I was growing up, and then when I was in college, I showed in the Equitation through IHSA. I enjoyed that. I used to have a lot of competition anxiety as a kid, but it got way, way better in college. A lot of the pressure was taken off. And now I think I'd like to get back to it just, for fun. I would like to branch out a little bit, though. Like I said, I grew up doing Hunters and then the Equitation in college, but with Nala, since she's broke English and Western technically, I would love to branch out into branch classes, maybe a little bit of reining with her, just because she has the athleticism and the power and the movement for it, and I've never gotten to try any of those, so it'd be really cool to start learning a new discipline with her. What was my biggest worry about moving her across the country? That's a good one. My biggest worry moving her across the country was that she was going to refuse to get on the trailer at some point, or try to refuse getting on the trailer and wound up hurting herself really badly. According to her last owner, she had some trailering trauma before me, and I haven't had a chance to really practice, trailer loading and unloading with her in the time that I've had her. It just hasn't been feasible at any of the barns that I've been at, and I don't own my own truck and trailer. What's been my biggest challenge so far with Nala? Everything. All of it. Every single little thing. I think the biggest challenge I've faced with her is her suddenly stopping in the middle of our rides and not really responding to any aids that I give her. We can be going around fine, have a really nice trot session, and then we'll walk for a minute or two, and then I'll ask her to pick it back up again, and she'll just plant her feet still. It was really bad in summer 2023, where I could lead her up to the mounting block and get on her, and she just would not move her legs at all. And I would try for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes to try and just, get her to tip her nose one way or the other, cross over in front, back up a step, and nothing. She'd just completely shut down and tune all of it out. And that's gotten better over the last year. It happens a lot less frequently now, but it's still something. I don't know what caused it. I don't know what the solution is. So it's something that I'm still trying to feel out and find an answer to. And I think the most frustrating part of it is that there's no clear-cut cause for this, as well as no clear-cut solution. We can have a series of really great rides, and, next thing, boom, she's just shut down and tuning me out. Other challenging stuff includes starting her over 100% from scratch, building back from the ground up. And the other biggest challenge that I've had with her is that when she gets really, really overwhelmed, she's a rearer. And I had never dealt with one of those before owning her. It happens much, much, much less frequently now, but again, summer 2022 when I first had her, she was rearing every single ride I had her. And not the big, fuck off scary, standing straight up gonna fall over type rears, just, getting enough air off the ground to scare me really good. I've gotten a couple questions too about how Nala and I are adjusting to California after living in New York, and I think Nala might be making the adjustment better than I am. Obviously, she's partially clipped right now because she does have her winter coat in, and it's not as thick as it would be if we were here in New York, but it is still quite thick, so she gets very hot and sweaty very easily. Less so now that she's clipped, but she still gets sweaty. But I think the milder climate agrees with her. I don't think she's as irritable as she was in New York when, she was cold and I was asking her to come in and work. And I think the way our barn is set up is just better for her overall than our barn in New York was. The barn in New York was really cramped in the aisleway and it was really busy all the time, and there was just kind of no good place for us to be out of the way. The cross ties were a big source of anxiety, and now at the barn she can see other horses, she can touch other horses, she has buddies that she hangs out with kind of over the fence in her stall block setup, and the cross ties are away from her stall and kind of out of the way of all of the hustle and bustle of the barn, which I think she really likes. And overall, I just think that she's happy out here. I've had a little bit of a harder time adjusting. I've been a little homesick, not gonna lie. I miss my friends in New York and I miss my life in New York. And honestly, I miss the seasons too. The weather in LA has been great. I don't miss having to shovel my car out from, a foot or two of snow over the winter. But I also, I miss different weather patterns. I miss having a stronger seasonal presence. Everything about California feels different to me. And even though I'm really, really glad to be here and I'm glad that I made this change in my life, it's been hard, which, I think is kind of the reality of anyone making a big move after spending a long time in another place. Like, even if you're happy about it, there's still a lot to adjust to. So, well, I don't know. We'll see how I am in, another 6 months. All right, next question is, did Doc and Nala know each other before moving? No, they did not. Even though they were both on the East Coast, Doc lived in Connecticut, and he lived there even when she moved out west. He just got to be a pasture puff for a while. And Nala obviously was with me in New York. So no, they didn't meet before coming to California. They met when Nala got off the trailer and got into the quarantine barn because Doc was a couple stalls down from her. And now they're pretty friendly. They live right next to each other. Doc is a lot more up in Nala's personal space than I think Nala would prefer sometimes, but she mostly politely tolerates it. They kind of do everything together these days because Kelsey and I tend to ride at the same time. We ride together, they get groomed and tacked up together, they live next to each other, they go out on the trail together, we've ponied each of the horses off of the other before. So I think they're buds. If you kind of leave Nala to her own devices and completely drop the reins when we're riding around, she'll follow Doc around and vice versa. And they also call to each other all the time. And our last question today is, what have you liked most about your journey with Nala? I think my answer for this one is pretty much the same as my answer for the other question about Nala's best feature. And it's that when she's on, she is so on. She makes you feel like $1,000,000. You can go out and conquer the world together, which is fantastic, but also makes it, that much harder when she's having an off day. Oh, wait, sorry, one more question. I almost missed it. What is something you have learned from owning Nala? I don't know, this is a good one. I think my answer to this is probably that Nala has changed my entire horsemanship philosophy. I grew up in a really rigid traditionalist riding style and tradition with the trainer that I rode with in high school, and that was kind of the mentality that I kept when I went to work as a pro in the horse world and then moved on to training Nala on my own. And I've had to throw so much of that out because it just doesn't work with her. She's not the kind of horse that you can bully into anything. She has extremely strong self-preservation instincts, and she's learned, I think, that she needs to act out in a very big way to get people to leave her alone. And the solution to that isn't to try and force her harder into listening to me or into complying with whatever I'm trying to get her to do. It's to take a step back and give her a voice and let her have a seat at the table because she, I think, deserves that autonomy. And having that shoved in my face that I finally have a horse that I can't just push around and get what I want from, that I have to work collaboratively with and listen to and pay attention to and make sure her needs are met before I ask anything from her has, I think, changed my entire way that I approach horse training now, where I've thrown out a lot of the traditionalist stuff that I grew up with, a lot of the dominance-based education that I grew up with, and my goal now isn't to get my horse to do everything I say. It's, to ask my horse, what do you need from me to feel safe? And just shifting the axis of my philosophy that little bit, I think, has completely changed the way I look at horse training for the better. That's all of our questions for this go-around of Q&A. I hope you enjoyed our trail ride. Thank you all so much for sticking around. I really appreciate each and every one of you. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe before you go. I would love to have you along with us on our journey. And I'll see you all in the next video. Happy holidays, everybody, and Happy New Year.